The senator from Somerset, Senator Whittemore, moves the majority ought to pass as amended. Report be accepted. Is this the pleasure of the Senate? It's a vote. First reading of printed bill.
Senate Paper
Chair and
382,
Senator
LD
from Cumberland,
1161.
Senator Carson moves the reading be dispensed with.
Item 5-28 is a divided report
Chair
from the Committee on
understands
State and
Senator
Local
from
Government.
Scottsbluff, Senator Davis moves the reading of item 5-28 be dispensed with. Chair recognizes Senator from Scottsbluff, Senator Davis.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I would move the minority ought not to pass report. Thank you.
The senator from Scottsbluff, Senator Davis moves the minority ought not to pass report be accepted. Chair recognizes the senator from Aroostook, Senator Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I'd ask for roll call and ask to speak to my motion.
The senator from Aroostook, Senator Jackson, has requested a roll call. In order for the chair to order a roll call, he must have the express desire of 1/5 of the members present. All those in favor of a roll call, please indicate by raising your hand. Obviously, more than 1/5 of the members present are in favor of a roll call. The roll call is in order. Chair recognizes the senator from Aroostook, Senator Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I wanted to get up and oppose the current motion. This is a bill that originally, when I saw it in the 126th legislature in front of the Agricultural Conservation Forestry Committee, originally I wasn't in favor of it. And as I heard testimony about the bill, and as the time has gone on, I've come around to believing that this is something that I think should be done. I think that many times, if not all the time, people in your local communities have much better idea of what safety should be on anything grown or sold in their areas. I don't believe that bureaucrats necessarily from Augusta always know what's best for the people in those local communities. I think of, in one case, a person in my area was able to cut moose and deer during hunting season, did a great job. Everyone thought that it was an excellent service, but the first time someone brought a cow, beef to the facility, he couldn't do it anymore. The state said that he wasn't qualified to do it. And the opponents to this bill are saying that there's no control at all. Well, I don't believe that's accurate either. This still has to be passed in your local community. I believe those people know best what's best for the people in their communities. And so that's why I agreed to put the bill in again. And I certainly still feel very strongly that the people closest to you, the ones that you have the face-to-face transactions with, are the ones that most often, if not always, I feel strongly that you can trust them. And I just felt that this was something that more and more people are asking for, and that's why I'm opposing the motion on the floor, and I hope you'll join me in opposing that.
Chair recognizes the senator from Piscataqua, Senator Davis.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, if this bill passes, then all food inspection, all testing, licensing, and regulation of food, all of those things which makes our food safe to consume will be repealed, and it will be left to the local communities to do the whole of it. I would submit, Mr. President, that the food producers in this state have a marvelous reputation for providing us with safe, healthy food, and that, Mr. President, I think that we would be very wise to leave it that way. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from Hancock, Senator Langley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to join in opposition to this with my colleague from Aroostook County. This bill recognizes the growing support and maturation of local foods movement, and 18 towns have adopted the local foods ordinance, and 7 of them are in my district, and I've spent a lot of time on those farms. The grassroots organizers of the local food sovereignty ordinances know that personal knowledge, trust, community, and individual responsibility are not the creature of government, but the ground on which it rests. In fact, if such constructs do not spontaneously arise from the social fabric, government cannot survive. If they do not pre-exist, government cannot create them. But if the government doesn't cultivate them, husband them, and sponsor the supportive conditions in which social resources can flourish, then not just local food suffers, but so does the whole body. body politic. So, you know, there's a lot of individual responsibility that's involved here. There's no getting away. No matter how elaborate the government apparatus is, how sophisticated the technology, or how well-trained and available the inspectorate is, things can and do happen. But when I buy from a local farm and I go and stand in their kitchen or in their barn, I take great comfort knowing that they are feeding their own family from which the food is that I'm buying. So I would support the opposition to this motion. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from Kennebec, Senator Seaway.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, my degree is in agriculture, and I grew up on a farm of 80 acres of vegetable gardening and 110 head of cattle. And for those that don't know, I work for a company for the whole New England area for Eastern Artificial Insemination Corporation Incorporated. And I used to breed cattle artificially for 8 years. 20,000 cows I've bred. So I used to go around farm to farm, and I saw all, I know it's funny, but you know, it's a service that was very important for breeding cattle so that they actually had quality cattle. But also, I went to farm from one cow farm, family farms right up through to 2,000 cows at a farm. And when you go to these farms, you see the pride that was taken, and also the chemicals that were used in treating cattle and whatever. And even the little family farms, you know, they had ill cattle, and sometimes I'd walk into a farm that did not qualify for, you know, the testing and whatever, and you would walk in and there'd be a dead calf laying on the side of the barn, or there'd be cows that looked malnourished, and also you'd see the buckets with flies all over it. You know, we really take pride in the state of Maine in our produce, and when you know, when I worked on the farm with 25 acres of potatoes, we used to send potatoes out, and they had to be checked, and you couldn't have less than 3 or 4% spoilage, or if there was even a little nicks or whatever, and because it would rot the whole barrel, or it would rot your shipment, so it would not be accepted. There's high standards out there. They test your milk. They test so that it doesn't have penicillin in it and that sort of thing. They test for bacteria. And if we do this, we could hurt the whole state of Maine's economy. So this is a bad bill. And I can't say it plain enough, because I know from my experience, which, you know, I grew up that way, I know Maine as far as agriculture. And we really have to take pride in what we've done and what we've created, and we have to take care of our farms. So this is an important bill to do away with, because it is a bad bill. Thank you.
Pending question before the Senate is acceptance of the minority ought not to pass report. If you're in favor of accepting the minority ought not to pass report, you'll be voting yes. If you're opposed, you'll be voting no. Is the Senate ready for the question? The doorkeepers will secure the chamber, and the secretary will open the vote. Have all now voted? Secretary will close the vote and run the total. Chair will announce the vote. 16 senators haven't voted in the affirmative, and 18 senators haven't voted in the negative. The motion to accept the minority report fails. Chair recognizes the senator from Androscoggin. Chair recognizes the Senator from Androscoggin, Senator Mason.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask that this item be tabled to later in today's session.
Senator from Androscoggin, Senator Mason, having voted on the prevailing side, moves to reconsider, I believe. Chair recognizes the Senator from Androscoggin, Senator Mason.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. So, Mr. President, I would withdraw my motion. And furthermore, having voted on the prevailing side, I would ask that we reconsider our action on LD725 and further move that we table this item till later in today's session.
The Senator from Androscoggin, Senator Mason, has moved that we reconsider our action whereby we failed to accept the minority ought not to pass report, and further moves that this matter be tabled until later in today's session pending acceptance of that report. Is this the pleasure of the Senate? Bills and resolves reported by the Committee on Bills in the second reading to be read by title only unless there is objection.
Item 6-1 is House Paper
Chair
339,
understands
LD
Senator from Franklin,
476.
Senator Saviello moves the reading of item 6-1 be dispensed with